UFC Seattle, Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. This is the Funkin' Flex MMA betting breakdown show. Thank you for tuning in. While you're here, drop a like on the thumbs up button down below. Hit subscribe. We're coming off of a red hot week where we swept all 12 fights, 12-0 on the night in the official picks. So make sure you guys show some love by hitting that subscribe button. Go ahead and follow me on the gram, Funkin' Flex MMA, and we'll go ahead and do a expedited version of this UFC Seattle. As it turns out, the less I overthink, the better I do. So we'll go ahead and jump into the recap for UFC Vegas 102, starting off with the dog of the week in the main event. We had Jared Cannonier, and looking back on this, I regret not just putting my entire bankroll on this. Jared Cannonier just completely outdogged Gregory Rodriguez, as Rodriguez is proven to be a danger early on, but as that fight gets later into the rounds, he gets gassed. And when you're fighting a guy like Jared Cannonier, who's been the 5 round dance several times, it was just a great all around read and call. Not to toot my own horn, but it feels good to get back right on the dogs of the week, 2 weeks in a row, especially in the main event. And that'll bring us to the lock of the week. We had Yusuf Zalal in the co-main, dog of the week in the main, lock of the week in the co-main. And Yusuf Zalal did not scare me for a moment. Even though he may not have the most exciting fight style, he really is a problem at this 145-pound weight class. And his second run in the UFC has been nothing short of dominant. Even if he's not necessarily a fan favorite, his game plans still deserve respect, and he is definitely a tough puzzle to figure out at that weight class. So we'll go ahead and move for the lock of the week to be 4-2, go 2-5 on the dog, and then adding 4 wins and 0 losses to the confident pick section always feels good as well. As good of a week as possible for UFC Vegas 102. And with that, we're coming into UFC Seattle with all the momentum in the world. Shabazian, Bonfim, Delgado, all with very impressive finishes early on. I could have honestly parlayed all three of those first round finishes, and they were the 3 first round finishes on the card. And then Angela Hill won the split decision. Finally, she gets one. Loses a lot of split decisions, so it's nice to see her win a competitive fight that I did think she deserved to win. That'll put us up 19.4 units on the card. I'm going to do a better job starting to get these plays out ahead of time as I've gotten some feedback. I do put them out Saturday afternoon. So, you do have to kind of be on the lookout for that. Funk and Flex MMA on the gram to make sure you catch the full betting card. 18.2 units on the year. And I want to make sure you guys are catching as much of this profit as possible. So if you do show me love on the gram, I will commit to you guys to get these plays out earlier. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and post all of the betting card and everything tonight, Friday night, and try to get in the rhythm of doing that every week. I just really like to see the weigh-in show before I kind of, make my final decisions on some of these picks. But that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the first segment on the UFC Seattle card in the dog of the week. We have Rob Font, and this one, guys, I really like the pick. Jean Matsumoto, I have just not been as impressed with. I do think that he has some potential, and at 25 years old, he definitely can grow into a contender and potentially even a future champion. I don't want to write him off, but I think at this point in his career, he is severely overrated, as I think Brad Katona had a lot of good moments in him in his last fight. So for me to get Rob Font at plus money, which is growing here, I think is a great call. Rob Font, great boxing. I think he's gonna have the quicker hands, and if he can stuff the takedown threat of Matsumoto, and this fight gets drugged out into the late second, third round, I'm gonna be riding into the decision with a lot of confidence. I think Rob Font can get this one done easily. Moving into the confident pick section, we're going to start off with the late edition and Baron Tenikov. I did not have this one on the preview and prediction show, but as you can tell in the confident pick slide, you know who my most confident pick is, or who the pick is for that one. Baron Tenikov, I think, is being severely overlooked in this spot, as it's nearly a pick 'em against Vanderford, who is a Bellator journeyman at best. His only UFC competition that he did was a win in the Dana White Contender Series back in 2018, but he did not get a contract, and I think that there's good reason for that. not to overlook Vanderford. He does have a lot of, at least decent level experience fighting. Has at least 8 fights in Bellator. But that being said, I do think that Varentenikov, with the split decision against Danny Barlow in his last time out, I think that that actually gives him some credit. I don't want to write him off for that. And I also think that Varentenikov losing his only other UFC chance before that was to Michael Morales, who we have just seen as a stud for this weight class. So for the first confident pick, we're going to go Varentenikov over Vanderford. I also like Javid Basharat at minus 250 over Ricky Simone. Basharat really just momentum taken away by Ayman Zahabi in his last fight. And I do like a lot of these undefeated fighters who have a lot of hype. When they get their first loss, they come back more determined. And Ricky Simone, unfortunately, we've seen kind of on the decline of his career, just really did not look inspired at all against Vinicius Oliveira and continues to double down that he wasn't injured, but just gives the props to Oliveira. And I think that Basharat here can pose a similar quickness on the feet problem for Simone. And I do like Basharat to get it done. I'll be looking at the decision prop as Ricky Simone still does seem to have, a decent chin at least. And Basharat, I don't know if he has the kind of power to put him away. But that being said, on to Ruzaboyev at a minus 300, another confident pick here. Um, Fighting a guy in Mechanico who's training out of MMA Lab, and those guys don't always tend to have the best, heavier fighters. And Ruzaboyev with 50 professional fights, a lot of people are starting to underrate him because of his last performance against Joaquin Buckley, where he was just never able to get going. But you could say the same about Kobe Covington, and Joaquim even finished Kobe Covington. Ruzaboyev losing the decision there, and I don't think that that's really something you can knock him for, as Ruzaboyev is the more experienced fighter in this match, and he's also moving up to 185. It's going to fit his 6'5" frame very better. Very better. Do I know English? It's going to fit his 6'5" frame a lot better, and for that reason, I like Ruzaboyev training out of Gracie in Philly. Just the better 185ers out of that gym and 205ers, light heavyweights, training with guys like Joe Pyfer, Sean Brady, some good wrestlers. But we do know that he has that KO power. I like Ruzaboyev, and I'll probably look to bet him inside the distance. And then lastly, the co-main event here, the rematch. I think Hernandez is the exponential growth factor since their first fight in the LFA, which was both of their last fights outside of the UFC, went to a 5-round decision, which Hernandez won. And I think that they both have improved tremendously from that. But I like Hernandez. I think his power is, better. I think he's got more power. I think he's um, the slight edge in jujitsu. I think he just might be the slightly better fighter everywhere. And coming off of that win from Michel Pereira, who is one of the most scary guys in the league or in the division. And Hernandez just really made light work of him, finishing him late, really showing off that cardio. And I think that he might be able to look to use that here against Brendan Allen, which transitions us into our lock of the week. And for this week's lock, I had to go with the fighting nerd on the card, John Silva. I think that he is just better everywhere. Bagdasarian, we've even seen struggle on the ground as he's lost his only 2 losses were by submission to a lot lower level fighters than John Silva, who I think is live to get a KO or sub here. I definitely will be betting this one inside of the distance. John Silva, the lock of the week here. I wouldn't be surprised if Bagdasarian has some moments on the feet and maybe makes me sweat early on in the fight, as that's kind of where he tends to shine. He has won a couple decisions, so I'm not saying he's a gas bag, but I think that if Jean Silva's in any sort of trouble, he'll be able to land a takedown and get him out of there relatively easy. The degenerate props and parlays will be on the Instagram, so again, make sure you guys please follow me there, Funk and Flex MMA. I'm going to go ahead and get those uploaded tonight. And other than that, I hope you guys continue to carry the momentum from last week strong. 12-0 last week. We have another 12 fights this week. Let's go 24-0 over the course of 2 weeks. That would be a great way to pay for the ticket that UFC Miami just released this week. The tickets opening up. The seats that I normally buy like $400 or $500 at pay-per-views are like $1,500. So I do need a little extra love from these cards this weekend. Hopefully we can get some good picks in. And maybe I do end up betting Henry Cejudo as a 3-1 underdog here. Might be pulling the Ryan Garcia. We'll see though. Um, Much love to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you drop a like on the way out, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday's video next week.